So today we're going to talk about a much underutilized Ableton instrument, and that is Impulse. So as you can see here, it's an instrument. If you just drag Impulse itself into an empty MIDI track, you won't get really any sounds. As you can see here, you've got all of these containers which have no sounds in them. So let's start by bringing in a 808 Impulse instead. So it's got some preloaded samples, and of course you can go ahead and, as long as you've got the MIDI arm recording on, you can go ahead and play them on your keyboard. The one thing I want to explain here about Impulse is one of the reasons I think it's one of the least used instruments is because users of Ableton have the option to use Impulse or to use Drum Rack. Now, Drum Rack seems to have a lot more options. Now, the two main differences is in Impulse, you're kind of restricted to these 8 different sample options. You can't really use any more. The containers in Drum Rack can accept instruments or even external instruments, whereas this can't. This can only accept samples. There's a lot of limitations, but a lot of people use Impulse because of the limitations. And the fact that you can only use samples in Impulse means that the actual tool itself can do a couple of neat things that maybe a Drum Rack can't do, which are mostly around transposition and time stretching of samples. You can time stretch all of the samples in one go, and I think that's a pretty cool thing. So we've got a little sample going there. I'm just going to now re-loop that. Because MIDI arrangement overdub is on, I'm going just to overdub that and just add just some hi-hats to the loop. We'll just take the metronome off for now, and let's just fix that little loop up. So what we have is a nice little Impulse loop. And there's only 3 instruments here because I want to start demonstrating some of the features of Impulse. So because it's a sample only editor, you can do these classic sample editing things like change the start position of the snare. So I'm affecting the snare only, by the way. And when you click on any of these, you get all of these different options for any of these different samples. So you can also transpose. And you can stretch the sample. And you can start messing with some of the, so you've got this soft option, which, let's just bring the stretch back to normal. It just makes the sound softer, I guess, takes a lot of the heavy transients out. See the difference? And then you've got random modes. Let's just add random mode to this. And you can try different random modes. So random mode's just doing, basically, it's taking any of these sort of settings and just randomizing them. So you don't actually know what you're going to get, but sometimes that's a good thing. And the percentage of random mode just tells you how often it's going to be randomized. So if you say select 20%, 23%, only 23% of the times that the snare is hit, it will randomize the either transposition, stretch, or the starting position of it. If we do 100%, it's always going to be randomized. So you don't know what you're going to get. Let's just take that down. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for that first section. And then I really like this drive section. So drive section just adds saturation to the sound. If we add that together with stretch, it can sound really sort of mental. So just add a little bit here. Now we're going to add a filter. So you've got a few different filter modes here. You've got high pass, low pass, but I tend to use these low pass ones. So we'll just reduce the frequency. So we've got kind of that filter frequency changes, and resonance will add a little bit to the top end. And once again, you've got velocity for the filter, and also randomization. Now, all of this, let's just go into, I'm just going to stop this for a second. If we just press A, all of this can be automated. So say, for example, we want the resonance of the filter to be automated for the snare. You can just do it like that. And by the way, let's just pull that out. So we've got just a separate track there. If you click on any of these, it'll just jump to the area that you want to automate. So we just press another plus button there. Let's just do it the other way around. We'll start with a really high frequency and reduce that. And once again, you can say do the same with stretch. So stretch could be like really high at the beginning and really low at the end. So you can see all this kind of moving and it's pretty cool. So this is all this kind of sample stretching, resonation and filters going on. I mean, I could even, if I really wanted to, I could even change the filter type here. So for example, I could go from low pass to high pass in the middle of it, in the middle of the, there you go, low pass there. Notch, so we can just sort of change how the filter works and the filter style. Okay, so that's enough for that. And then we've got the decay, pan, and volume. And once again, this is just for that sample. So we can make the decay really short, so it just has a really small tail. You got trig, you got gate. Let's just make that really short. Velocity changes. Let's try, this is where it's going to get really mental for the snare. Let's just try randomization. So we don't know what's going to happen here. Anything can happen in terms of pan, volume, decay. We can mute and solo, just the snare. And we can, oh, sorry, let's not go to transpose yet. So I'm not going to randomize this actually because the volume is just too high. So there you go. We do some more, let's just do some more work here on the hi-hat. Let's randomize what happens with the hi-hat. That might sound good. Just, you know, experiment. Okay, so on the snare, because it's annoying me a little bit, I'm going to take the automation off of the stretch because that was annoying me a little bit. Now, then we've got this kind of right-hand side column. This volume, time, and transposition now affects all of the samples in one go. And that's what I really like about this. So let's change the time. So this is going to time stretch all of the samples in one go. And this is in isolation to what's happening to the separate samples. So this is the opposite of time stretching. I guess that makes it kind of a tighter sound. And similar with transposition. It transposes basically everything. We can actually just do that again. I've just clicked on this, so automatically global time comes up and we can time stretch just down, just a little bit up and down. So we've got movement and all sorts of weird shit happening. We can just take it to extremes. Now, I'm sure there's a way you can do this with a drum rack, but it's just so much simpler to do it with an Impulse. I actually don't think you can do this with a drum rack. So Impulse does have very unique features. Now, that's beats, right? So let's just remove all of these so you just see that. What we can do now is we can start really making this interesting. So if we go into here, for example, let's just copy all of these closed hats to here to open. Just move them a couple. I mean, this is complete experimentation. I don't know how this is going to sound. Okay, so we've got that going on. Just double click that again. Then we're just going to go to Splice, where I've got just loads of random samples. I'm just going to take anything. Let's just take a few. Let's just take a listen to a few things. Let's just get something that's melodic rather than just a guitar. Actually, no, I don't like that guitar. So let's try these soul samplers loops. Something melodic. That one. So we're just going to go back into this second hi-hat. We'll just go in here and we're going to just solo this. So this is what we were listening to. So I'm just going to bring this really melodic sounding sample in. Now this is where you may want to change the beginning of the start point. Now this time stretching and this transposition is making a difference here, so let's just reduce that transposition down. I've got rid of all the transients, but I actually like it with the transients. Let's get random mode on. So we're just going to randomize it just a little bit. Now let's just listen to it with the beat. Let's just reduce the volume just a bit. Reduce the decay. That's too much. Now just trig there. Now let's just change the transposition so it sounds better. So another thing that you can't do, and I was really wanting to do with this is, well, at least I don't know how to do it. Maybe you can put something in the comments if you know how. You just can't put an effect. You can't add any, because I was thinking of adding a delay to the sample, but you just can't. The only way I guess you could do it is to take the sample itself and add the delay and then resample it and put it back in, which isn't really ideal. So let's just take this automation off of the time stretch. So if you don't like that, we can just go in and just change the different. Just bring some funky beats in there. Now this one's an interesting one because this is obviously a bass loop, but we can randomize the bass loop so it's playing different notes because it's going to transpose it. Okay, so once we've done that, and I think I've shown you everything I need to show you with the impulse, I'm just going to duplicate this and I'm going to freeze the track. I'm going to just turn it into a sample, flattened by flattening the track there. Just take a quick listen. Now let's just do the same thing again. We'll just change the transposition down to 0 here. Going to duplicate that again and freeze that again. Now I have no idea how this is going to sound, so this might just turn ugly on me. So here we go. We've got a lower octave version and a higher octave version of basically the same thing. So for example, we may want to just bring in bits and pieces of the sample. Let's just do it like that. Into one. So, and then we'll just crossfade them. So it just sounds like they're one sample, really. All right, so let's just do some more experimentation. Let's bring in Nicky Romero's kickstart. Now, let's just go back into here. And I really want, I really want delay on the snares. So let's just listen to this again. So let's just solo the snare. And now let's duplicate that. So remember, keep the original there so you don't lose it. And let's freeze this baby. There's the snare. So let's just get some nice delay going. You can use any delay. I'm just going to use my favorite, replica. Just get a flanger on that baby. Once again, let's just go back and duplicate that impulse, and we're just going to solo that kick because I just want to. Let's just solo the kick, sorry. So you can see here what's happening is that even though it doesn't look like you have a lot of options here, what you can do is pull it together and then pull it apart. And so you can really, get creative with some of the sounds. So let's just try hearing that kick. Let's just sharpen that transient, really sharpen the shit out of it. We could just pitch it up. Let's just now hear how that sounds. And we can just do some funky things. Like, for example, we can just move it up just a little bit like that. And that snare, because it's sampled, you can just, let's just reduce that delay a little bit. It's a bit too much. Okay, so I guess that's it for my impulse tutorial. So really, I hope that was useful for you guys. There's zero editing done to this. I've just literally gone in and done the tutorial for you because I wanted to get it out quickly because I don't have a lot of time to do editing. So I really apologize if it wasn't as slick as some of my other videos. But anyway, if you like Impulse, if you use Impulse, I'd like to hear from you because I really think it's a very, very useful tool because it gives you limitations, which in my mind increases creativity. Thanks a lot and see ya. So earlier I said you couldn't use an Impulse with a drum rack, but then I had to think about it and I thought, well, Impulse is actually just an instrument and you can drag any instrument you want into a drum rack. So actually you can. And I think that's a really cool idea because you get then the best of both worlds. You can use all of the cool things that drum rack has, as well as all the cool things that Impulse has by combining them. But it's not an easy thing to do, but I have kind of worked it out and I'm going to show you quickly how to do it. So what you want to do then is you want to take the Impulse that you created a bit earlier and you want to sort of copy that instrument. So you've got all the sounds that you had earlier. And then you want to just go into C1 there, double click on it and just press paste on the instrument. And then we want to do the same thing here, paste. And I think there's 4 instruments, so we'll just paste on the first 4. And we'll do it again here. So, but the problem with that, if we just arm the drum rack, is you only just hear the bass, so the kick. You don't hear anything else when you click on your drum rack, which is annoying. And that was the thing that I found a little bit complicated. But actually, there's a way around that. There's a way to fix it. Just make sure you've got I/O section clicked and you unhide the chain list when you're in the drum rack. And just make sure that what you want to do here is everything seems to be linked to the playing of the C3 note. So when you're actually playing the impulse, it's just playing the C note on all of them, regardless of what key it's in. So what you want to do is just go in and just change those to the next note. So the second one's D3, the third one will be E3, and then you'll get to eventually F3. Okay, so you've got all of the samples there, and obviously once it's in drum rack, you can record those samples. So you want to go actually into drum rack itself, and you can see here straight away you've got all of the sounds, but you don't know which order they're in. What you can do is go in and just copy the MIDI that you created in Impulse, but you don't have to do this. This is just something I'm doing quickly now, and just drag them down so they're just hitting any of the Impulse things. But I don't know which one's which. I don't know which one's a hi-hat. Oh, there you go. So pretty much you've got an Impulse, but you've got that in a drum rack. Now the reason why that's cool is because now you've got drum rack, and drum rack's really useful for doing things like, you can say drop audio effects here, which you can't do really to single sounds in Impulse. So I want to drop an echo effect into, say, this one here, and suddenly we've got Impulse working, but you've got some effects going on some of the single tracks. And as I said, the absolute value of Impulse is the fact that you can time stretch, or you can transpose samples and the whole thing at the same time. So we can just go into the drum rack itself and then start messing with all of the automation for envelope, for trigger, for gate, transposition. So let's just transpose some of this. So yes, you can put a Impulse into a drum rack, and you can put them in as many times as you want. So you do have some pretty amazing and cool functionality there that I've just added to the end of this video. So I hope that was useful.